Hello! So you've just started Final Fantasy XIV, you've created your Warrior of Light, and now you're stuck on picking a job. You saw how Paladins are going to be main tanks now in the next expansion, and you think to yourself, I want to do that. So you became a Paladin. Paladin is a tank that uses a sword and shield. This job is actually pretty simple, and has a lot of mitigation tools. It has changed a bit in Dawntrail, however, so let's take a look. Let's start with your main combo, which is Fast Blade, into Riot Blade, then into Rage of Alone, or Royal Authority at level 60. Your AoE combo is Total Eclipse into Prominence. You also have a ranged attack, which is Shield Lob. Fight or Flight will increase your damage dealt by 25% for 20 seconds. At level 54, after using Fight or Flight, it'll change into Goring Blade, which is a strong single target attack. Shield Bash is a weapon skill that stuns most enemies for 6 seconds. While Shield Bash isn't very useful during bosses past the Realm Reborn, it's still very useful for stunning enemies in mob pools and very useful in deep dungeons. Just remember that mobs will start to resist the stun the more you use it. At level 76, after using Royal Authority, it'll give you Atonement ready, which allows you to use the Atonement combo, which is Atonement into Supplication, then into Sepulture. All of these weapon skills will give you 400 MP as well. At level 50, you can use Circle of Scorn, which is an AoE attack that also applies a damage overtime to all nearby enemies for 15 seconds. At level 30, you can use Spirits Within, which is a single target attack. At level 58, Spirits Within will restore 500 MP. Riot Blade will also now restore 1000 MP as well. At level 66, you can use Intervene, which is your gap closer that you have 2 charges of. At level 58, you'll be able to use Clemency, which is a targeted single target healing spell that's actually pretty strong, but costs a lot of MP. At level 64, the MP cost is reduced by half. Also at level 64, Royal Authority will give you 30 seconds of Divine Might. This will allow you to use Holy Spirit, a single target spell, with no cast time and extra potency. Holy Spirit, without Divine Might, has a short cast time and does slightly less damage. At level 84, Holy Spirit will also heal you. At level 72, Prominence will also give you Divine Might, and you can use it on your AoE spell, Holy Circle, with no cast time and extra potency. Like Holy Spirit, without Divine Might, Holy Circle has a short cast time and does slightly less damage. Holy Circle will also heal you at level 84 as well. At level 68, you can use Requiescast, which is a single target attack that'll grant you 4 stacks of the same name, and allow your next 4 spells to be used without any cast times and increased potency. At level 96, Requiescast will upgrade to Imperator, which does a lot more damage, is now an AoE attack, and can be used from range. With Requiescast, you'll mainly want to use the 4 stacks on Holy Spirit for single target and Holy Circle for AoE. You can use Clemency as well if you absolutely need to. However, at level 80, you'll unlock Confidier. This is a very strong AoE spell that can only be used with Requiescast. Now with Confidier, you'll want to use it and then 3 Holy Spirits or Circles. At level 90, after using Confidier, it'll change into the Valor combo, which is Confidier into Blade of Faith, into Blade of Truth, then into Blade of Valor. All of these are really strong AoE spells that all heal you as well. At level 100, after using Blade of Valor, Imperator will change into Blade of Honor, which is a really strong AoE attack. At level 10, you'll unlock your tank stance, Iron Will. This should be on almost all the time, especially in dungeons, as it allows you to hold aggro on enemies. Mitigation is key to staying alive while tanking, so please make sure to spread out your mits during a mob pool in a dungeon and to not use too much at once when tanking bosses. Rampart will reduce your damage taken by 20% for 20 seconds. At level 94, it'll also increase HP recovery from healing actions by 15% as well. Reprisal will reduce the damage dealt of nearby enemies by 10% for 10 seconds. At level 98, this is increased to 15 seconds. At level 38, you can use Sentinel, which will reduce your damage taken by 30% for 15 seconds. At level 92, Sentinel will upgrade to Guardian, which reduces your damage taken by 40% and gives you a shield for 15 seconds. At level 35, every auto attack you do will give you 5 Oath on your Oath gauge. You can spend 50 Oath on Sheltron, which reduces damage taken by 15% for 4 seconds, or 6 seconds at level 74. At level 82, Sheltron will upgrade to Holy Sheltron, which reduces damage taken by 15% for 8 seconds. It'll also give you a buff called Knight's Resolve, which reduces damage taken by another 15% for only 4 seconds. It also gives another buff called Knight's Benediction, which gives you a regen Mitigation for 12 seconds. At level 45, you can use Cover for 50 Oath on a targeted party member. This will tether both of you together, and any damage that is dealt to your partner will instead go to you. Cover is very situational, as it can come in clutch when trying to save someone, or if you need to invuln something for someone else. At level 62, you can use Intervention on a targeted party member. This will reduce their damage taken by 10% for 8 seconds. You can have Intervention give another 10% mitigation if you had Rampart, Sentinel, or Guardian active when you use it. At level 82, Intervention will also give both Knight's Resolve and Knight's Benediction to the targeted party member as well. At level 52, you can use Bulwark, which will block incoming attacks for 10 seconds. At level 56, you can use Divine Veil to heal yourself and nearby party members and give them shields. At level 70, you can use Passage of Arms to block all incoming attacks and reduce damage taken by 15% to anyone that is behind you for 18 seconds. Moving at all will end Passage of Arms. This is mainly useful to use during attacks where the bosses go untargetable. You can also quickly press it for a couple of seconds and then cancel it before any hard-hitting raid-wide attacks to try and catch as many players as you can with it. At level 50, you can use Hallowed Ground, which makes you completely invincible to almost every attack for 10 seconds. Hallowed does have the longest cooldown in the game of 7 minutes, so make sure you use it when you really need it. Before we go on, if you're enjoying the video, I highly suggest you subscribe and leave a like as well, as it really helps me out. If you want to support me even more, please consider becoming a member. My lowest tier is only $1 a month, and I really appreciate it. Also, if you want to watch any of my complete Final Fantasy XIV videos completely ad-free, I suggest taking a look at my Patreon, which is now only $1 a month as well. Thanks so much for your support. Now, I'm once again going to be taking this from my other tank guides, with some changes of course, as I do want to share some tips for tanking for those that haven't really done that much tanking before. All of your mitigation tools should be used on trash pulls in dungeons, tank busters, raid-wide attacks that hurt the whole party, and sometimes even auto attacks from bosses. When tanking a pack of trash mobs in a dungeon, it's important to spread out your mitigation, usually by using 1 or 2 at a time, in order to keep a constant source of mitigation active. With Paladin, you're pretty much going to be using Holy Sheltron a lot for personal mit, as you can get it up fairly often as long as you're in range. Your other mitigations are just as important and should be paired with Holy Sheltron. Hallowed Ground is very useful to use when tanking a lot of mobs, as you're completely invincible while using it. With tank busters, you're usually good to use 1 or 2 mitigations for them. Intervention is actually really good to use on another tank that's taking a lot of damage, or a tank buster, or even other party members that are low in HP and need the mitigation plus the regen. So please try to do this, as it can prevent wipes in some cases. Holy Sheltron should also be pressed near the end of the enemy cast bar, because of Knight's Resolve only lasting 4 seconds. You should get used to this anyway, as it'll be a very important skill come Evercold with Evolved mode. Provoke and Shirk are also very useful skills to use, as Provoke can give you enmity and is really good for catching stray mobs in a mob pool that aren't aggro to you, or for tank swapping and high-end content. Shirk is also mainly used for tank swapping, as it gives enmity to another party member, which should be the other tank. Paladin's damage rotation is actually really simple, as you're basically following a pattern of doing your 1, 2, 3, then using Divine Might for Holy Spirit or the Atonement combo. You should use Fight or Flight and Requiescast or Imperator together, as this will buff either the Holy Spirit spam or the Confiteor combo. Make sure to also weave in Spirits Within or Expiation and Circle of Scorn under Fight or Flight as well. You can try and hold both intervenes for Fight or Flight as well, but if you need to gap close, use one. Overall though, Paladin is a really simple tank in my opinion. It doesn't have too much going on and can be really easy to get into the flow of it. I am excited, but also a little worried about what's to come with Paladin and Evercold, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that basically sums up Paladin, so bye!